What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode of A Plus Morphinominal, your stop for your Power Rangers, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider review and news right here on our YouTube page. It is I, your Morphinominal host, as always, Adam Perez, coming through once again with a brand new episode, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to go ahead and tackle Kiramager, episode number 37. That's right, guys. Mashin Sentai Kiramager had a brand new episode this weekend, and we're going to go ahead and tackle it here for you today on Toku Tuesday. So happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Certainly hope your week has started off well. We've got a couple of episodes for you. We got a Kiramager review. We've got a Kamen Rider Saber review for you guys today also. And if for you lucky Patreons, you also get yourselves a Gokaiger reaction video as well today. So a lot to certainly look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. But today's episode number 37, I wanted to go ahead and tackle and discuss with each and every one of you, because man, what an episode it was. I actually had a really good time watching this week's episode. A quick shout out definitely has to go out to Yume Shinjo, who actually plays Sena in this series. Just an unbelievable performance in here, getting to really see her test out her drama skills, if you will, right? Like, I know Kiramager does tend to be pretty lighthearted, you know, some laughs here and there. I mean, it definitely does get sentimental and emotional from time to time, but I feel like this is probably one of the more dramatic episodes that we've had, where it really gets Sena to kind of show off her range, or I should say Yume, the opportunity to show off her range and what she can certainly do as an actress. So continues to impress, man. Look at Sena's been one of my favorite characters on this season so far. And her actor just continued to show why once again here in this week's episode, guys. So we're definitely going to be talking about it. We'll talk a little bit about Sena. We'll even talk a little bit about Seo in here and just their chemistry we wind up getting this week. And we'll also talk some Yodana and a very special guest appearance here that I did not expect to see in this week's episode. I honestly avoided the previews. I feel like as I get deeper and deeper into the seasons, I start avoiding some of the previews because some of the previews do tend to just have spoilers or let some things leak for me. So going forward, I may not watch the previews for Kiramager because I really want to be surprised as to what the next episode certainly has in store for us. But guys, let's go ahead and get into this episode. Let's not lollygag any longer than we certainly need to. So a couple things I want to talk about here first. First, the intro, where we get ourselves thrusted into Jotunheim, if you will, and we've got ourselves a returning Tarantula, which, to be honest with you, kind of bummed me out. I'm not going to lie. It felt very much like the writing team clearly made the decision to go ahead and kill Tarantula off in episode number 36. I mean, if you ask me, if you're going to go out with a bang, right? Like if you're going to put yourself out there for the very first time, get your hands dirty, if you will. I mean, goodness, you're even in control of not just a regular Marsk beast, but one of the big old gigantic beasts with the wings and like the triple head sort of thing. Like, this is your moment, Tarantula. So to see him kind of pop back up in here, one felt a little bit anticlimactic for me, kind of took away a little bit from episode number 36, and it just made me think to myself, like, man, if you're going to make a decision, stick to it, guys, stick to it. So I didn't like the backpedaling here. I either commit or don't, you know what I mean? And so I honestly felt that his episode in 36 was his final appearance. So for him to kind of come back just because of the idea of what he split himself into fives, if you will. Like, I know that theme continues here in this episode, but I honestly don't even think you needed that theme to be introduced in the intro here by Tarantula for that storyline to still play out for Sena. So it definitely felt like a little bit of some backpedaling. Like, if you were trying to trick me as a writer, you did it, but I got to be honest, I thought it was a terrible trick. I honestly thought it was a terrible trick. I just think, I feel like storyline purposes, it just didn't make any sense to have Tarantula come back. But if you want to, hey, that's not a problem. But I definitely thought the appearance of Tarantula in here wasn't deserved, honestly. I was not feeling it, honestly. But it does lead to a pretty funny storyline here, I should say, and a pretty compelling one when it comes to Sena a little bit later on, which we'll talk about. But I do love the idea here that Tarantula does reference that he has met Emperor Yodon. And for me, what this does for this episode, it really just kind of heightens my intrigue when it comes to Yodonna, because when Yodonna first came onto the scene, she kind of boasted about the idea that she's sort of the right-hand man to Emperor Yodon, right? Like, she's the person that Emperor Yodon speaks through in order to give commands to everybody, and everybody clearly listens to Yodonna, right? So the fact that Yodonna was upset that Tarantula even got to meet Emperor Yodon, I'm sitting here scratching my head like, shouldn't you have met him before too? And then Garza comes right up behind me and is like, I thought you've met her before. I thought you've met Emperor Yodon before. I was like, hey, we thought the same exact thing. Come to find out, not necessarily the case. But listen, you know, Emperor Yodon does at least give Yodonna a message. Find King Orden. I want you to get within viewing range of King Orden. Just find the guy. No extra instructions. She just simply knows she's got to find King Orden here. And what we come to find out at the end of this episode is that Yodonna is, in fact, Emperor Yodon himself. When we do finally get that appearance of King Orden face to face with Yodonna, the transformation takes place, and man, I gotta tell you, you guys have ruined my love for Yodonna. Like, the writers, like, I've been in love with Emperor Yodon this entire time. Is that why he's been sticking his tongue out the whole time? Oh, is that an Emperor Yodon thing and not a Yodonna thing? I was like, oh no, she's turning into Emperor Yodon. Kind of a bummer, to be honest with you. But a nice little surprise. I honestly was not expecting that to happen at all. So writing wise, it certainly makes sense to me. So great surprise here. But I do find it intriguing that Yodonna is completely unaware that she's the one that actually turns into Emperor Yodon. At least she clearly comes to find out at the end of the episode, but you clearly even see when she does change to the Emperor and then changes back, she clearly has no sort of memory that any of this has certainly happened, right? She doesn't even know she spoke with other people. She doesn't know she transformed at all. It seems as though like there's just a gigantic sort of a lapse in her memory, or a missing space in time, if you will, for Yodonna. So I think Tarantula even like references in the brief sort of mid-credit scene the idea that he's never seen anybody with like multiple personalities. So, I think Yodonna is trying to figure out like that she kind of exists as a part of Emperor Yodonna, or I'm calling it Emperor Yodonna now. That's what it feels like. Like either she's a part of Emperor Yodon, or he's a part of her, or she's got some sort of multiple personalities. Who knows? Maybe she's got more than Emperor Yodon inside of her head. But at least it seems as though she is now sort of like this walking embodiment of Emperor Yodon. Whether or not his spirit is inside of her, he can kind of change, come out whenever he certainly wants to. It'll be interesting to see what Yodonna winds up doing. Does she even like that notion that Emperor Yodon is certainly using her? Is she still going to obey him in every way imaginable? You know what I mean? Because she really hasn't kind of questioned the Emperor at all season long, just simply doing his bidding. But now that you know that he's kind of residing in you, and you've kind of, I don't want to say been living a lie, but like are unaware of it, right? Like without your permission, I am wondering if Yodonna is perfectly okay with that, or if there's going to be a little bit of a pushback. So we'll see. They definitely gave us a little bit of extra twists and turns when it comes to the Yodonna character, but man, talk about crushing my heart, man. I was crushing on Yodonna so hard this season, only to come to find out that she's a freaking Emperor. Thanks for ruining this for me. Anyway, I also, outside of that though, we definitely have to talk a little bit about Sena's character. And not only that, but props to the writing team for letting us get some Yodonna versus Sena versus Seo action together. You know, I'm trying to remember if I've seen Sena and Seo kind of hang out before in a prior episode this season. If this is our first time seeing the ladies kind of do their own thing together, or if I feel like I've seen an episode like that before, but maybe I'm mistaken. But regardless, I love the time with these two ladies, whether or not they're just sitting at a bistro trying to order some food and catch up with one another, or if you've got Seo running down Sena on a beach trying to tackle her and things like that, right? Trying to bring her back into the fold, if you will. I honestly just really love their chemistry on screen. I am kind of curious as to what their relationship is like off of set if they are as close of friends as they seem as they are on the show. But I really love the opportunity to see these two ladies kind of really carry this episode. I mean, the fellows for the most part are just kind of in the Zords, but I mean, you really get the opportunity to see Seo really trying to reach out to Sena a little bit in this episode, and I thought it was just brilliant that these ladies got the opportunity to kind of showcase themselves and really what they could do here. Because for me, if you ask me, I think it honestly heightened this episode, and I think it's just a lot of the performances and the acting. I think these two ladies are extremely talented, so it was really great the opportunity to see them together. But we kind of get a little bit of a hint of seeing the idea that how Sena's mind works, right? When she's at the bistro, she's trying to order herself a meal. She's got a couple backup plans. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I like Sena as much as I do. Like, she's just the type of person that really just kind of thinks ahead, tries to stay not only just one step ahead, but like 2 or 3 steps, right? Always having that backup plan, very aware of her surroundings and what other people are going to do, right? She's just very mindful in that sense. And so I love how Seo even highlights that in regards to how it's affected Sena's life and why she's so good at so many things because of that ability of hers to be able to do that. I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why I was such a big fan of Sena, to say the least. But we come to find out here in this episode, Sena's adventure is definitely going to get a little bit more interesting as they do come and confront Yodonna, as Yodonna is trying to find King Orden in here. And what better way to try and find out where the king is than by asking the Kiramagers herself. But in the midst of this battle, Yodonna accidentally multiplies Sena times 5. That's right. She whipped that ass with that whip. She just went whoosh, and then out comes 5 other Senas. Just completely separates her. And at first, when I'm thinking about the separation here, the one thing that I loved was that they weren't just clones, right? Like, it wasn't just 5 Senas all of the same personality and all acting the same and things like that. No. The way that they handled this sort of splitting of this character really is sort of going back to the idea of multiple personalities. Well, not necessarily say multiple personalities, but it highlights just the different personalities and different attributes that Sena certainly has. And so each Sena represented a different one. Like, I think number 1 was the athletic side of Sena, right? She's like running in place, like she's just ready to be active. She's definitely the athletic side. Sena number 2, if I'm not mistaken, was the cute one, always wanted to take selfies and pictures, right? Like, just absolutely adorable every chance that she gets. I love the fact she even asks Takamichi to take a photo of her, and he's like, okay, no problem. Number 3, I think, was I was thinking like the nerd or like the computer whiz, but they referred to her as like the administrative. I was like, oh, administrative? Why? Because she's working on a computer? No way. She's doing like algorithms and shit. Like, that's not administrative work. That's computer nerd. Okay. Number 4. What was number 4? Number 4 was the emotional side of Sena, and number 5, the number 5 one was the worst case scenario Sena, right? The very sort of negative, looked at things in a different, in a very negative, dark light, if you will, right? Like, whatever worst possible situation you can think of, this is the side of Sena that really sort of comes up with things. And what I loved about this was that as many Senas that shined in this episode, right? Like, we even had all 4 Senas being brought back together, with the 5th one, who is the worst case scenario, just automatically assuming she's like the one person out, right? Like, you've got your super Sena here, right? You've got your super competitiveness, your super sporty, your super athletic. Like, you have all 4 of them combined into like this ultimate Sena package, if you will, minus sort of the negative aspect of things. So number 5 just thinks that there's really no reason or purpose for me to certainly be here. But what I loved about this episode was that it really just goes to showcase that there is always value in what makes us. You know what I mean? Like, despite the fact that there may be sides of our personalities that we don't necessarily like, or we don't necessarily think should belong in our lives, or maybe some people think, oh, I need to be different, sort of thing. Understand that despite who you are as a person, every side of you certainly makes up who we certainly are. There's value. If there's one piece of you that's certainly missing, then you're not quite that same person anymore, right? And so I love the fact that we get to see that even though the team and Super Sena, if you will, are super excited about this idea of her going into battle with them, right? They clearly see that there is a part of Sena that's missing that is still valuable, and that's that consciousness side of her that kind of holds her back from rushing into too many situations sort of unguarded. You know what I mean? So I really just love getting an opportunity to see how things mess up with this perfect Sena that we wind up having, especially during the Zord battle, having the Kiramager have to save like the innocent bystanders in the car and things like that. And then really having Seo, it would have been nice if it was all the Kiramagers, but it was Seo yet returning to really talk to number 5 and let her know just how much her own personality truly is valued at the end of the day, and how they truly need her to come back and be a part of the team and be a part of Seo. And what I thought was also really comforting was the fact, like, it's just a really powerful moment to see yourself wanting you back, right? And welcoming you sort of with open arms. And so when we get that amazing performance by Yume Shinjo, who just had like the tears, you know, coming down, the eyes just swelling up with tears, like just some really great performances in here by both Seiya and Sena. And then to see her already sort of emotional about being needed, and then to find yourself saying, come back. Open arms, come back. We need you. We're not complete without you. There's just something really powerful about that really kind of just got at the heartstrings for me this week. So I took a lot away from this episode, you know. So yeah, again, there is always value in what makes us at the end of the day, and at least that's one of the lessons that I wind up taking away from this episode. But other than that, guys, I thought this was a pretty cool one. We got to see the corrupt King Express once again, taking over. Smog and the King Express wind up coming together once again to go ahead and give that beatdown. And then, of course, we finally got our opportunity to see Emperor Yodon for the very first time in his full form. Now, we didn't see him in small form. I'm wondering if Emperor Yodon sort of has like a humanoid form, or I should say like a humanoid height. Or is he always just going to be sort of Megazord big, right? So really cool design. I was a really big fan of it. You know, one of the things that I have always said, guys, when it comes to my villains, I do appreciate my villains to have just human facial features. I think that's another reason why I appreciate Yodonna sort of as a villain, because you can kind of latch onto sort of the emotions that she's displaying. Fear, anger, right? It really heightens a scene whenever you can kind of see somebody's expression, especially when they're a villain. You know, Emperor Yodon, unfortunately, though, is a gigantic monster, huge costume design, you know, mask and everything like that. But I kind of dig the idea of him sharing the body with Yodonna because of the fact that maybe she is sort of like his mouthpiece, if you will. Kind of bringing in that levity to the episode, maybe heightening things with her fear that she winds up presenting anytime that she's kind of on screen, sort of thing. So I'm hoping that kind of continues going forward. Emperor Yodon just kind of made a quick appearance in here, though, and said, I'm going to be back later until this world is absolutely ready for me. I really would have loved to have seen him stick around a little bit longer. I did love his display of abilities and power in here. Him just like wiping out and decimating half the city, just to kind of give them a tease of his power. And he's like, I'll be back when there's more decimation, right? Clearly leaving that up to Garza and Yodonna to continue to pave his way to his return, if you will. So I'm expecting a showdown between Oridon and Emperor at some point in time. Maybe Emperor and Juru. I'm sure Juru probably has a bone to pick with him also, but overall, some really great stuff. So honorable mention goes out to Emperor Yodon for making his presence felt in here. dropped the ball on the Tarantula death, if you ask me, but really loved the Yodana stuff and was extremely pleased with the Seo and especially Sena stuff that we wind up getting here this episode. So another solid episode of Kiramager, one I certainly enjoyed, pulled at the heartstrings a little bit, but I thought it was a fun and a great episode to really get you teased for as we head towards the finale for this series. But let me see, guys, if I have any not honorable mentions, but any live viewer questions. I know we didn't have any last week because we wind up having Kiramager dropped really late for us throughout the week. But yes, we got Loyal, aka Blossom on YouTube's got a couple questions. Says that that was mega freaky when the Emperor came out of Yodana's body, huh? Yeah, super freaky. I was just thinking to myself, like, oh, Yodana, you're so beautiful. Oh, what is happening? And then next thing I know, like, it's Emperor Yodon is here. It's like, surprise, I'm a man. I'm like, what? But I will say this, I honestly do think that the little tongue action that Yodana's been giving, while I thought that was a staple of Yodana, I'm starting to think that maybe that was a sign the entire time that Emperor Yodon was certainly inside of her, right? Because when she gets ready to turn, she sticks her tongue out, and then it like literally turns into a snake's tongue as Emperor Yodon starts sort of like transforming and making his presence felt. So maybe the tongue action was from Emperor Yodon this entire time. You also say it was kind of interesting when Sena split up into 5 different personalities, wasn't it? Yeah, I loved it. I honestly really loved getting an opportunity to see the different sides and the different personalities to her and things like that. Moryu's idea to just push them back together. Talk about simple, but it worked. I thought it was great. And then the little numbers popping up on her jacket, if you will, to kind of imply all the personalities that were inside of her. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the split personalities. Again, I think it was super important that they all just weren't clones, right? Like clearly they're all identical, but they're not just the same copies of Sena. They're all different personalities, and it really worked for me because there was something just really heartfelt about seeing her wanting her other half back, right? Like, even though, yes, you are the negative side of things, you are the worst case scenario, there's a reason why I have you as a part of my personalities, because you mix so well with everybody else. And you get me, aka Sena. So I thought it worked out really well. I had a fun time with this. A couple comments you have. When Mock saw Sena split up, he was crazier than usual. Yeah, the idea of 5 Senas for Mock, he's probably like, can I get between all of them, please? I'm pretty sure that's what he was thinking. He also say when Sena told Yodana where Orden was, I was like, what the heck, Sena? That's right, because she does ask, and one of the personalities who is just so rambunctious, so just wants to talk, it seems like, has so much energy, just literally gave up like the location of the king. Granted, Yodana couldn't get there, so that's probably maybe why Sena thought it was easy for her. Thought that Yodana didn't have a chance. But I can't lie, when we see Yodana show up to Embark and Garza comes out of nowhere and he starts doing the same thing, a part of me thought to myself, if this works, if Garza gets control of Embark again, this is absolutely terrible writing, honestly. Like, how are you gonna fall for the same trick twice, Embark? So I'm glad when he actually is like, psh, I'm out of here, guys. You ain't catching me this time. I'm glad that he was smart enough, because if the writers let him fall for it 2 times, yeah, we were gonna have some problems then. When the Emperor appeared, he looked just like how my sweet Babu drew him. I mean, Jizo Rosita. Yeah, he kind of did, actually, now you think about it, with the glowing eyes and stuff. There really was a huge resemblance from Juru's picture to the Emperor for sure. You say, if there's one thing that the episode taught me, is that the worst part of you is a part of you who are without a balance of both traits. There's chaos waiting to happen. Yeah, absolutely. And really, it's the idea of valuing every part of your personality. There may be parts of our personalities we don't necessarily like, but they probably help maybe balance us out to be who we certainly are, right? So there certainly is value in being us. So I thought that was pretty neat. But yes, you said it just absolutely right there. But other than that, guys, I think that's probably going to go ahead and wrap it up for me here today. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly joining me as always. We'll certainly be back later on next week with another Kiramager review for you guys. So certainly tune in then. Feel free to go ahead and check us out on our Patreon account if you want to go ahead and continue to support the channel. There is a link in the description box below if you want to check out some of the tiers. And if you have any live viewer questions that you want to go ahead and submit our our way, feel free to go ahead and do so at aplusmorphinominal@gmail.com. Again, aplusmorphinominal@gmail.com. There is a link in the description box below as well, and we'll certainly get to your questions this Saturday for our live episode of A Plus More Phenomenal every Saturday at noon Central Time. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Kiramager change!